in or around the year 2020, we met and looked at the cybersecurity zone, and we looked at the activities that were coming out, new media, and how that could challenge the traditional notions of responsibility. And so how do you deal with people who exploit the opportunities granted them in the new media, malign, use hate speech, and all those things which really, if it were in the traditional media, you'll be able to hold them responsible. So now, and this debate is not only limited to Ghana. Recently, the United Kingdom, there was talk about a trolling of a footballer who had missed a penalty, and the footballer almost nearly committed suicide. He said that he won't take future penalties. And the discussion was that, well, so if it's the social media that is being used to troll the player, who has the responsibility to ensure that that doesn't happen? There was some consensus, unanimity, that those who own the platform, they should have that responsibility, and that they need to develop regulations to ensure that people don't misuse that platform. The same thing, I mean, Samson, I heard you complaining one day when after your distance, somebody wrote something that was totally not correct. Totally. But he had already published that. You wouldn't reach, you only exercise your right to to counter what he has said. But probably many people who read what he wrote and not reading what you subsequently wrote will walk away with those notions about you, which were totally untrue. I mean, and sometimes I sit on this platform and say things, and I go and read things that somebody has written, and you want to check the byline. Who is that person? The Marvelous TV. Who is that Marvelous TV? Who is that? Who is behind it? And totally different, totally different. That's what Donald Trump calls fake news. How do we deal with fake news? So what the president is saying, and I mean, and let me back roll small. I mean, you remember Rwanda? Rwanda was even the use of a traditional media. Somebody went and sat on radio and called a group of people cockroaches. And what do you do with cockroaches? You exterminate them. And so many of those guys, many of the Hutus were killed. That was irresponsible of somebody to do that, to use public media to do such a thing. It's the same thing. We need to find a way to balance the need for people to exercise their right to speech, freedom of speech, as captured in chapter 5 of the Constitution, and also balance that with the requirements of responsibility, taking responsibility for what a person has said and holding people accountable for what they have said.
Sam George has been talking about a law that is being made in this regard. We don't know about it yet, so we don't know what is contained in there. I don't know what you know, that like elsewhere, the way they are doing it, it is the owner of the platforms that they are punishing for these hate speeches. Is that what we are seeking to do? Because I know also that in our national security strategy document, hate speech has been flagged as a national security issue.
Yes. And even not only in Ghana, everywhere, hate speech. And you know, that can be really, really debilitating. I mean, that can be sapping. I mean, if somebody says something about you, and I experienced that at first hand when I said something about, I mean, and the way I was attacked, regardless of what I meant, clearly undermines the freedom of expression. And so people who say those things must be held responsible. Now, how Sam George is conceiving that, I don't yet know. But what I can tell you is that when the draft of the law is finally made available, all of us will input and ensure that we deal with this emerging phenomenon. Nobody should have the right to sit in the corner of his room and create content meant for public consumption without any iota of responsibility. people must have responsibility. They must be responsible for what they have said. We must be able to hold them. If you want to create a civilized, sane society, people should be responsible.
But how do you marry that with our constitutional dispensation of the freedom guaranteed to speak your mind?
Within the limits of the law. The constitutional guarantee says within the limits of the law. I mean, you've forgotten that caveat at the end of chapter 5. Within the limits of the law.
Even in chapter 6, it's